Welcome to another game of FFA Commander featuring my Narset Enlightened Master deck. The other players this game are Jerry playing his Arcanis the Omnipotent deck, Amanda playing her Oloro Ageless Ascetic deck, and Carlos playing his Alesha Who Smiles at Death deck. One of these players does not stick around very long this game, just to warn you in advance. Jerry goes first, landing Snow Island. Amanda gains 2 life, but then loses it just the same with a turn 1 Ancient Tomb into Demir's Signet. Carlos plays Boros Guildgate. Myself, Flooded Strand. Jerry plays another Snow Island. Amanda goes back to 40 life when she casts Coalition Relic and then taps the relic for Sarah Ascendant, which is of course boosted. Carlos casts Suture Priest on his turn. My deck is completely creatureless, by the way. I pay a life and sack Flooded Strand at the end of Carlos's turn and put Sacred Foundry onto the battlefield tapped. I play Maze of Ith. Take that, Sarah Ascendant. Jerry just plays another island on his turn. Amanda gains 2 life in her upkeep, but loses it again to Ancient Tomb and casts Archangel of Thune. Amanda then attacks me because I am playing Narset, and then remembers that I just played Maze of Ith. Carlos plays City of Brass and attacks me for 1 with his Cleric. I play a Plains and then pass. At the end of my turn, Jerry Mystical Tutors for Fabricate and puts it on top of his library. Jerry draws Fabricate and then lands another Snow Island. Jerry passes the turn, but before Amanda's turn, Carlos terminates Amanda's Archangel of Thune, preventing her from mad beatdowns with those 2 things with the Oloro effect. Carlos takes 1 damage from the City of Brass. Amanda gains 2 life in her upkeep and plays Cabal Coffers. She has 1 or 2 proxies in her deck, by the way. She casts Pearl Medallion and attacks Carlos with the Ascendant. I tell Carlos that if he doesn't attack me next turn, I will maze the Ascendant again. Frustrated with the maze, Amanda then vindicates it. Carlos plays Alesha on his turn, gaining 1 life from his Priest. I cast Scroll Rack. Jerry plays Academy Runes and then fabricates for Sensei's Divine Top and then casts it. Amanda puts a counter on Coalition Relic at the end of Jerry's turn. Amanda casts Oloro on her turn, losing 1 life to the Suture Priest. She then attacks me with Sarah Ascendant now that the maze is gone. Holding a Condemn in hand but worried about Alesha's insta-kill ability next turn, I decide to take 6 damage instead. Amanda gains 6 life. On his turn, Carlos ponders who to kill. He starts by casting Buried Alive, taking 1 damage from City of Brass. Jerry strains to see if he has an out to Buried Alive. He starts by using his top, but has no way of stopping it. Buried Alive resolves and Carlos finds Magus of the Moon, Master of Cruelties, and Archetype of Finality. Seeing his chance to take Arcanis out of the game, Carlos then attacks Jerry with Alesha, and Alesha's Master of Cruelty back into play, putting Jerry to 1 life when he doesn't block, and then dealing him 3 damage with Alesha, killing him. With a little too much going on the battlefield right now, I cast Supreme Verdict on my turn. Amanda counters her Coalition Relic at the end of my turn. On her turn, Amanda Bajuka Bogs Carlos, getting rid of the cards he just put in his graveyard last turn. Amanda's life total once again stays the same this turn when she taps Ancient Tomb to cast Cryptghast. On his turn, Carlos takes a damage from City and casts Tide Hollow Sculler, targeting me. I reveal Reliquary Tower, Time Stretch, Condemn, Teferi, and Fervor, which Jerry takes. I play Izzet Boilerworks on my turn, bouncing an island. On her turn, Amanda casts Demonic Tutor and extorts it, draining Carlos and I 1 life each. Amanda finds and casts Necropotence, not having too many cards in hand at the moment. She gains 4 life for the turn, but then pays 6 life into the Necropotence to put 6 cards into her hand at the beginning of the next end step. Carlos casts Active Authority on his turn, exiling my Scroll Rack, which I use in response to switch out most of my hand. I cast Teferi, Temporal Archmage, and -1 it to untap 4 lands. Amanda casts Rock's Faith Mender and extorts it. Amanda gains 4 life for the turn and pays 1 into Necropotence to draw a card. Barely remembering to attack Teferi with Cryptghast, Teferi goes to 2 loyalty. On his turn, Carlos attacks Teferi with his Scholar in hopes of finishing off the powerful Planeswalker, But I'm ready with the crib swap, giving Carlos a 1/1 shapeshifter with Changeling and giving me my Fervor back. Something for everyone. Carlos then casts Lingering Souls and then flashes it back, paying 1 life with the city. On my turn, I plus Teferi, adding Reliquary Tower to hand and putting Time Stretch safely on the bottom of my library. I play Reliquary Tower and cast Fervor, hoping to attack next turn with the hasty Narset. Amanda counters her relic once again. On her upkeep, Amanda gains 4 life but continues to skip her draw phase. Amanda casts Phyrexian Arena and extorts it, losing Carlos and I 1 life but gaining her another 4. On her next turn, Amanda casts Soul Ring and Consecrated Sphinx. She then pays 2 life into Necropotence. During Carlos's draw phase, Amanda draws 2 with Consecrated Sphinx. Carlos attacks me with Falcon Wrath Noble and Shapeshifter, dealing me 3 damage, and also attacks Teferi with his 4 spirit tokens, which he forgot to attack with last turn. Teferi dies and I go to 26. On his next main phase, Carlos casts Blasphemous Act for 1 mana with exactly 8 creatures on the field, mostly just to kill Amanda's Sphinx. Carlos targets Amanda with all of the Noble's triggers, draining her for 8 life and going to 42. At the end of Carlos's turn, I cast Factor Fiction. Carlos makes a pile of Tezzeret's Gambit and Time Warp, and then another pile of Island, Azorius Chancery, and Elspeth Sun's Champion, which is the pile I take. On my turn, I cast Elspeth and plus it to make 3 soldier tokens. I then flashback Faithless Looting, drawing 2 cards and pitching 2. On her turn, Amanda nets a total of 1 life after Oloro and Arena triggers. She then casts Mind Crank, which mills cards after life loss. Amanda then continues playing artifacts and enchantments with Exquisite Blood, which makes you wonder when the Sanguine Bond is coming. At the end of Amanda's turn, Carlos deals himself 1 damage by tapping the city in order to mill himself for Alesha. Unfortunately, the card he mills is one he wants with Swamp, having no other way to produce black mana outside City of Brass. Despite that, he still manages to play Swamp next turn, but then just recasts his commander anyway. On my turn, I attack Amanda for 3 with my soldiers. I then make more soldiers and play Azorius Chancery, returning an island. Amanda nets 1 life at the start of her turn. Amanda casts Kokosho, the Evening Star, and deals herself 2 damage with Ancient Tomb. Next casting Obnixilis of the Black Oath, and then using his Neg-2 ability to make a demon and lose 2 life. She then pays 1 life with Necropotence to put a card into her hand at her end step. Carlos deals himself 1 damage at Amanda's end step to mill himself 1 card. Amanda gains 1 life from Exquisite Blood. Carlos attacks Elspeth with Alesha and leashes Falcon Wrath Noble into play, also attacking Elspeth. I chump Alesha with a soldier and Elspeth loses 2 loyalty. At the end of Carlos's turn, I cast Cyclonic Rift, the way Niv Mizzet intended it to be cast via Overload, bouncing all of Not Me's permanents. On my turn, I attack Amanda for 5 with my soldiers. I then make 3 more soldiers with Elspeth and cast Stormherd for 26 Pegasi, hoping no one has Massacre Worm. On her turn, Amanda gains and loses 2 life to recast Soul Ring and Demeanor Signet, and then cast Supreme Verdict, but wanting to have saved it for Narset. She then recasts Coalition Relic and discards at her end step. Carlos recasts Alesha and Falcon Wrath Noble, and then vindicates Elspeth. On my turn, I play Temple of Triumph and leave Temporal Mastery on top of my library. I then overload Vandal Blast, destroying 3 of Amanda's artifacts. On her turn, Amanda casts Erebos, God of the Dead, and Necropotence. She then plays Azorius Chancery, returning Bojuka Bog to her hand. Amanda pays 1 life and puts 1 card into her hand with Necropotence. Carlos attacks Amanda for 5 damage, 3 commander. Carlos then returns to dust Amanda's enchantments. She just can't have nice things. In response, Amanda activates Necropotence twice, losing 2 life. On my turn, I Miracle Temporal Mastery and then cast Narset Enlightened Master. I go to my next turn. On my turn, I cast Ponder not liking the 3 lands on top of my library, so I shuffle. I then attack Amanda for 3 commander and exile 3 lands and Jace the Mind Sculptor with her ability. Post-combat, I cast Jace the Mind Sculptor and use it to Jace Storm. I then cast Temporal Manipulation, taking an extra turn. On my next turn, I once again Jace Storm and cast Crystal Shard for the Bulletproof Monk effect. I then return Narset to hand and cast Hallowed Burial, sending Carlos's creatures to the bottom of his deck. I pass the turn. Amanda Bajuka bogs my graveyard and cast Painful Quandary and Pearl Medallion. Carlos casts Fencing Ace, paying 6 life, 1 from City of Brass and 5 from Painful Quandary. On my next turn, I once again J-Storm, tap lands for mana, and then play Boros Garrison. I then fuse Wear Tear, discarding a land to Painful Quandary and targeting Amanda's Painful Quandary and Pearl Medallion. I then recast Narset. On her turn, Amanda casts Obsidian Ghost Council, draining 2 life from me. Amanda gains a total of 4 life for her turn. She then casts Blood Artist, and at the end of her turn, exiles the Spirit Advisor. Carlos loses 1 life from City of Brass to cast Shield Red Whispering One, but then gains it right back and more when Ice Swords to Plowshares it. I start my turn by J-Storming into more useless cards, so I cast and use Wayfarer's Bauble in an attempt to put something better on top for Narset. I then play Temple of Epiphany, leaving Brainstorm on top. I then attack Amanda with Narset and Carlos casts Wing Shards, wishing he had tapped his mana correctly last turn. I bounce Narset with Crystal Shard. I then reveal Brainstorm and 3 flipping lands. I cast Brainstorm, still not liking what's on top. Despite not having Crystal Shard protection anymore, I decide to go ahead and cast Narset anyway, since next turn I won't have any way to give her haste either. Amanda returns Ghost Council during her upkeep, again draining me and gaining 4 life. Amanda pays 1 life to sack Bloodstained Mire and find a land and cast Liliana Vess and minusing it to put a card from her library on top. Amanda casts Phyrexian Arena, losing 2 life from Ancient Tomb. Amanda attacks Jace with Ghost Council, killing the Planeswalker. She then exiles it again at her end step. Carlos just passes his turn. I start my turn by attacking Liliana, triggering Narset's ability. Narset reveals 3 lands again along with Walk the Eons. Liliana dies. I then cast Walk the Eons, paying the buyback cost and returning to my hand, which I think is like the first time I've ever done that. On my next turn, I attack Amanda for 3 commander and exile Beacon of Tomorrows. Post-combat, I cast Beacon of Tomorrows, targeting myself. I then go to my next turn and attack Amanda again with Narset. Post-combat, I cast Swiftfoot Boots and Time Stretch using Narset's ability, targeting myself. On my next turn, I attack Amanda again. I then cast Recurring Insight, which doesn't rebound since I cast it from exile using Narset's ability. I target Amanda with the Insight and draw 4 cards. I return to Dust, Amanda's Arena, and cast Cold Steel Heart, naming blue. I then cast Elspeth, Knight Errant, and use it to give Narset +3 and flying. I then cast Waves of Aggression, untapping Narset. I then attack Amanda for 6 with Narset. I exile and cast Jeskai Ascendancy, and Venser the Sojourner, triggering the Ascendancy. I retrace Waves of Aggression, discarding a land and again triggering Ascendancy. I then attack and finish off Amanda with commander damage. From that attack, I exile and cast Karn Liberated and the Chain Veil. I exile Carlos's creatures with Karn, and then use Venser to exile Karn and return it with 6 loyalty. I go to my last turn. I start the turn by targeting Narset with Elspeth for +3 power. I then use the Chain Veil to give Narset another +3. I cast Jace, Architect of Thought, using Jeskai Ascendancy to give my creatures +1, but not using its loot effect. I neg 2 Jace and take the pile that does not have Omniscience in it. I attack Carlos for 10 with Narset. Able to cast Waves of Aggression again, but without a land in hand to retrace it, I have to pass the turn. But first I exile 2 cards out of Carlos's hand with Karn. Carlos just passes his turn, wanting to see if I can close the deal. On my turn, I again pump Narset twice with Elspeth. I cast 2 spells to give Narset +2 from the Ascendancy. I then attack Carlos and exile the very 4 last cards out of my library, winning the game for Narset.